Good evening, everyone. Respected CA Dr. Debashish Mitra ji, President ICAI, CA Aniket Sunil Talati ji, Vice President ICAI, Mr. H.M. Hinayak Bandara ji, President SAFA, and CA Nihar and Jambu Saria ji, Vice President SAFA, CA Charanjot Singh Nanda ji, Chairman Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, and CA Dayanivas Sharma ji, Vice Chairman Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, and our eminent speakers, CA Ankit Mehta ji and CA Yukti Arora ji. For today's session. Today we have all gathered here on this virtual platform given to us by the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, hosted by SAFA Committee on Information Technology. The topic for today's session will be blockchain technology. And to start off with today's session, I would request CA Charanjot Singh Nandaji, Chairman, Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, to please take over for welcoming remarks. Nanda sir, please.
Thanks a lot, Sampunji, the Honorable President Safa, Mr. Bhandara, the Honorable Vice President Safa, and our past President CA Nihar Jamusaria ji, Mr. Sampun Sharma, the moderator of the day, so Mr. Ankit Mehta, Madam Yukti Arora, Amit, the Secretary of Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this great seminar. In fact, we are doing so many seminars with Southern Asian Federation of Accountants on technology subjects. Today's webinar is on blockchain technology and how it could help professionals across the world to service their clients. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll put three things here. Number one, as professionals, we have to service not only our clients or stakeholders, but we have to serve our regulators and the government as well. Technology has put us at a parlous where we render error-free services. And more importantly, the work, whatever we do it on a wholesome basis rather than going on sample. And lastly, the error rate is zero. So therefore, blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things will put us at a parlance where professionals can use the skills to very rightfully serve their clients. And more importantly, use various means and methods that suits the entity to ensure that we give their best. Ladies and gentlemen, blockchain technology is now not only used by technical firms, but is used by normal professional firms all across the globe. To put a simple example, if I wish to sponsor a girl child for charitable purposes, every pie spent on that girl would come to me by way of notes from blockchain technology. So it is ultimately empowering me so that I understand the trial of all transaction which happens. And more importantly, I'm able to take a very wholesome view of what has to be the perspective in which the work was undertaken. Not taking much of a time, I have the President Safa and Vice President Safa with me. More disturbance, I would request Mr. Sharma to call upon the President for their words of wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nanda sir, for your welcoming words. Next up, I would like to invite CA Nihar and Jambu Saryaji, past President ICI and Vice President SAFA, to share his thoughts and views over the topic. Nihar sir.
Thank you, Sampurna. Good evening, everybody. President SAFA, Sri Hinayak Bandara ji, the Chairman of IT Committee of SAFA and also Chairman of Digital Accounting and Assurance Board of ICAI, CA Charanjot Singh Nanda ji, today's eminent speakers and the members who are attending this webinar. First of all, Merry Christmas to all of you. Now, Christmas will be the day after tomorrow, and I wish you all celebrate it completely. And also, this year will come to an end in a week's time. So wish you all a very happy new year 2023. Let me at the outset congratulate the chairman of this committee, C.A. Charanjot Singh Nanda, for organizing so many programs, so many webinars on information technology. And if you look at the range of webinars that he has arranged, it covers almost every aspect of technology, be it data analytics, be it artificial intelligence, be it cyber security. And now today we are also on blockchain. As very rightly put, blockchain will help dissemination of information error-free. Human intervention perhaps will be so minimum. And if we take the example of only accounting, when you enter a voucher, the accounting entry will automatically be done. So today, the work that all accountants are doing, perhaps technology will do it itself. And not only that, whatever information we desire to have from this technology, it will be disseminated to the designated persons seamlessly without any error. So this is going to make tremendous transformation into the way we maintain accounts, the way we read them, the way we receive the information. And perhaps it will help professional accountants so much that instead of focusing their attention on preparation of routine accounts, they will be able to focus their attention on critical information, advise the client, and see that they are driven to the right path in many areas. So the advisory part which the accountants, the professional accountants were supposed to perform even in the past, majority of their time used to go in preparing routine information. This will not happen in future. And today again, expert speakers are there. They will guide us and let us know what are the advantages of this technique. And the detailed courses are still available. And every member will gainfully attend those detailed courses in future to learn this technology themselves. So with this, thank you for organizing this webinar. It is another value add, and I do not know whether 1 week's time is left. And a person like Nandaji may plan one more webinar with the consent of the President Safa. Then we may say goodbye at that time to 2022. But for the time being, since there is no further program announced, let us say goodbye to all programs on IT for the year 2022 and look at 23 from another new angle going forward. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Nihar sir.
Thanks a lot, Nihar sir, for his scintillating address. It was really great. Over to Mr. Sharma.
Thank you, Nihar sir. Those were very kind words of you. And thank you for sharing your knowledge light with us. Now, for moving further on, I would like to invite Mr. Hinayak Bandara ji, President SAFA, to take over and share some of his words on the topic.
Right.
Hinayak sir.
Right. Thank you, Sharma. Good evening to all of you.
Sir, just 1 minute.
Yes,
since this is the last webinar, I would like to tell participants that President Safa was so active. And if you see the range of activities that he has done during the year, it is really landmark activities. My hearty congratulations to President Hinayak Bandara ji. Under your leadership, SAFA has seen and achieved new heights, and this benchmark will be very difficult to achieve for all future presidents. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heartiest congratulations, President sir. It has been really a very happening and enduring term, which all of us will remember for times. Great, sir.
Right. Thank you to both of you for your kind words. Of course, yes, definitely, with the support of all of you, we were able to deliver so many things as we have planned at the very beginning. I am sure that even during the 2023, we will be able to deliver much more than what we have delivered 2022. In other words, we need to add value to all these activities going forward. So thank you very much. So CA Neha Jambusara, Vice President SAFA and past President ICA India. CA Singh Nanda, Chairman SAFA Committee on Information Technology and Digital Accounting and Assurance Board of ICA India. Eminent speakers, moderator, participants, and ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me thank the Chairman SAFA Committee on Information Technology for organizing this webinar on blockchain technology and inviting me to address you all. I also would like to appreciate the support extended by our Vice President, SAFA, President ICA India, to organize this session for the benefit of accounting fraternity in the South Asian region. Ladies and gentlemen, emerging technologies and digitalizations are reshaping business models, finance, and accounting practices. And digital technologies are generating mountains of data, providing organizations with potential to better manage risk, seize new opportunities, and improve insights. As you know, blockchain is important because business runs on information. Blockchain is ideal for delivering that information because it provides immediate, shared, and completely transparent information stored on an immutable ledger that can be accessed only by permitted or authorized network members. As mentioned by our Vice President, a blockchain network can track orders, payments, accounts, production, and much more. And because members share a single view of the truth, you can see all details of a transaction end to end, giving you greater confidence as well as new efficiencies and opportunities. Furthermore, virtually anything of value can be tracked and traded on a blockchain network, reducing risk and cutting costs for all involved. Distributed ledger technology, immutable records, and smart contracts are the key elements of a blockchain. I'm sure that the speakers, the subject experts, will discuss in detail all these areas. I'm happy to mention that most member bodies of SAFA have undertaken several programs on blockchain technology as well as other areas to educate their members. The International Federation of Accountants also encourages professional accountancy organizations to ensure their members have access to relevant high-quality continuing education programs. In that context, the webinar organized by the Information Technology Committee of SAFA with the support of Digital Accounting and Assurance Board of ICA India will be beneficial not only to the members of ICA India, but for the entire South Asian region. With those few words, let me thank once again the Chairman and Organizing Committee for inviting me, and I wish the webinar all success. At the same time, I wish you all the best for the season and 2023. Thank you. Over to you, Sharma.
Thanks a lot, President Sir, for your kind words.
You're
and again,
welcome.
wishing you a great tenure ahead, great life ahead. You had contributed a lot for the activities of SAFA. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Hinayak sir. And as Nanda sir said, you have been a great personality. And with these words, I'd like to move on. And as I said earlier, that today's topic was blockchain technology. And to deliberate, we have among us very esteemed speakers. So starting off with first session, we have CA Ankit Mehta ji with us. So here is a brief profile of CA Ankit Mehta ji. CA Ankit Mehta is a chartered accountant, CISA, CISM, ISO 27000, risk management professional, certified crypto and blockchain investigator, smart contract auditor, and associate professional with over 14 years of experience in stat audit, internal audit, operational audit, information security, IT management, IT audit, and third-party risk management and cybersecurity governance. In the last few years, he has also helped companies bring efficiency using automations, making decisions using data analysis, and making their exposure by building, implementing the customized risk and control matrices pertaining to the emerging technologies like RPA, blockchain, AI, etc. With this, I'd like to welcome CA Ankit Mehta ji to start deliberating on the topic. Ankit sir, over to you.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much for your kind words and introduction. Thank you everyone for joining, and to all our esteemed sirs, Nihar sir, Naik sir, Charanjot sir, and all the organizers. Thank you for the opportunity. And I am not able to share my screen, rather like um, switch on my video from my laptop. So that's the reason I've joined from my phone as well. So I'll just share my screen. Can you see my screen? Okay. I believe it just went away. Okay, give me a second. Yes, it's visible, right?
Yes, sir. Visible.
Okay, perfect. All right. So before we deep dive into blockchain, I just thought I'll just start with the basic technologies what we have. So if you see on the screen, right, uh, you have like distributed ledger technology, blockchain, and few cryptos here, right? So to understand the applications and the implications of the technology, it is like first important to know these technologies, the terminologies, what we are seeing here on the screen. So cryptocurrency is an electronic currency and an asset, right? And Bitcoin is a well-known cryptocurrencies built on the blockchain technology. And blockchain is a type of distributed ledger which enables records to be stored and sorted onto the blocks. This might be as simple as using the same open source code as Bitcoin to create a new ledger, or I would say more complex, such as swapping alternative assets onto it. Uh, Blockchain can create trust, which may remove the need for third parties. Consequently, it will help us reduce cost and friction in the entire process. And here comes digital, rather, I would say distributed ledger technology. So it is a family of technologies that includes blockchain, where a ledger is maintained by a group of peers rather than a single centralized party. And a miner is like a peer in the Bitcoin blockchain network that confirms or verifies a transaction by solving a challenging cryptographic problem and adds the transaction or a block to the blockchain, and thus updating the ledger. So this shows the overall relationship between the Bitcoin blockchain and distributed ledger technology. So let's understand more what distributed ledger technology is, and the reason why to take or why to understand is really important, because blockchain is actually one of the distributed ledger technology. So it becomes imperative to understand the distributed ledger technology. So distributed ledger technology, or DLT, is a digital system for recording the transactions of assets in which the transactions and the details are recorded in multiple places at the same time. Unlike traditional databases, distributed ledgers have no central data store or administration functionality, and that's how it differentiates itself from the traditional databases. So in a distributed ledger, each node processes and verifies every time, thereby generating a record of each item and creating a consensus on its veracity. A distributed ledger can be used to store or record static data such as registry and dynamic data such as financial transactions. So here comes like blockchain. So blockchain is a very well known example of a distributed ledger technology. But
Ankit
again,
sir,
yeah,
can you disconnect your audio from your phone? Because it's saying connecting to audio. Sorry for the interruption.
no problem.
Recording in progress.
Just a second. Yeah, just hold. Is it fine now? Okay, all right. Sorry for the disturbance. So yeah, let's again deep dive into it. So DLT refers specifically to the technological infrastructure and protocols that allow the simultaneous access, validation, and updating of records that characterizes distributed ledgers. It is really important to understand here that it all happens simultaneously. It works on a computer network spread over multiple entities or locations. It uses cryptography to securely store data, cryptographic signatures as well, and keys to allow access to only the authorized individuals. The technology also creates an immutable database, which means information once installed cannot be deleted, and any updates are permanently recorded for posterity. So this architecture represents a significant change in how information is gathered and communicated by moving record keeping from a single authoritative location to a decentralized system in which all the relevant entities can either view or modify the ledger depending on the authorization that has been provided. So as a result, all other entities can see who is using and modifying the ledger, right? Because it has all uh, the audit trails of it. You can see who has modified on what time, what date. Everything is available. So this transparency of DLT provides a high level of trust among all the participants, and practically it eliminates the chance of fraudulent activities that may occur in the ledger. So as such, DLT removes the need for the entities using the ledger to rely on a trusted central authority that controls the ledger or an outside third party provider to perform that role and act as a check against any kind of manipulation or alteration to it. So the overall interest in this technology grew significantly in the decade after the 2009 launch of Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency powered by blockchain technology. Everyone is aware of it, right? So that was the first kind of a demonstration to this technology. So it not only worked, but could scale and remain secure as well over the period of time. So should we take the questions at the end, or should I continue presenting?
The question answer session will be at the end of the session.
Okay, all right. Okay. So what is actually blockchain and how it works? So let's first understand in the normal or in the current space, right? When we transact uh, or when we try to make a payment to any party, there's a bank involved to it, right? So there are a lot of middlemen involved into it, and blockchain helps to eliminate all those middlemen. So, and again, there's a question of why to uh, eliminate the middleman, and why do we need middlemen, right? So we need middlemen to ensure we have a trust, transparency, and settlement. See, trust ensures that there's a control, right? Transparency is being governed by the rules and regulation, and settlement because uh, it is being settled by a centralized party. But here in blockchain, uh, the trust is being governed by the distributed nature of it, right? Because the data is distributed. Transparency in the sense it's all available to all the peers because it is a peer-to-peer network. Whosoever has access to it or whosoever has a node, right, they can access all the data. And in terms of settlement, it all depends on the consensus mechanism or the algorithm which is being used. uh, for the sake of example, say it can be proof of work or a proof of stake. So now we understood that, okay, uh, that blockchain helps to eliminate the middleman, right? So how does a transaction occur on a blockchain? So when you make your purchase, right, you can do it at the click of an button, right? The transaction is verified on the blockchain depending on the consensus mechanism. Uh, so based on the consensus mechanism, the transaction is verified and it is stored, and each block in it is linked to each other. The unique code is assigned to the block along with the hash of the preceding or the previous block, so that it ensures that each and every block is linked to each other. And yeah, that's how the block is added to the blockchain. So once hashed, a new blockchain is created to the block along with the information, the timestamp, the height of it, and everything. So let's now understand what are the different types of blockchain. So there are like four types of blockchain. One is private blockchain, the public blockchain, the hybrid, which is a combination of others, and the federated one. So you may now ask, why do we need different kinds of blockchain? So before we discuss about blockchain types, let's understand why we need them in the first place. Again, so when blockchain technology was introduced to the world, right, it was a public blockchain type with the use case of cryptocurrency, right? So it is really hard to understand the intent of its creator, but in general, it provided the concept of DLT, the distributed ledger technology. And this concept changed how we solve things around us. It gave organizations the ability to work without depending on a centralized entity. Distributed technology solves the drawbacks of centralization, but in itself brought a lot of other problems as well. When it tried to solve uh, the underlying problem of the centralized party. So, for instance, Bitcoin used an inefficient consensus algorithm proof of work. It requires the nodes to solve mathematical calculations using energy, right? Initially, it was not a problem, but as soon as the difficulty increased, the time and the energy that was required to solve these mathematical calculations or the equations increased day by day. So this inefficiency makes it not suitable for any system that needs to stay efficient no matter what. But recently, even this is getting improved in terms of the lightning network. So yeah, so now say for example, banks deal with a lot of transactions every day. So this blockchain type is not suitable for it. So there are other problems associated with the first generation of blockchain, including the scalability, the automation, and so on and so forth. So anyhow, now you can see the article uh, in the sense that the blockchain technology is being like bifurcated into these 4 types of blockchain, right? So now let's deep dive into each of these. So to start off with, the public blockchain, right? uh, the public blockchain is one of the different types of technology, the blockchain technology. It is permissionless because it is public in nature, right? And like whenever anyone wants to see or join, they can do it, right? um, so one of the first blockchain that was or released to the public blockchain was again the Bitcoin blockchain, right? So the verification of the transaction was done based on the proof of work, but there have been other blockchain use cases which use other consensus mechanism. um, yeah, so it like gives power to everyone. It's public, right? Everyone can be a part of it. Everyone can see what's happening. There are no access control to access the blockchain. But if you move to the private blockchain, so the name itself signifies, right, it is private in nature. So the organizations wanted to use blockchain for their own use cases. So that's how they started using private blockchain. So there are restricted parties to it. The accesses are being governed um, based on the level of authorization that is being required. So be it view, be it like create or a change, accordingly the access was provided. But again, uh, it was, or it is rather being used by a few people, part of the blockchain, and it is a closed group, and a single party is the one who is actually managing it. So there comes the need of the hybrid one, right? So that's how it emerged as a hybrid model, because uh, we may have a use of both the public and the private. And again, it is sort of a closed in nature compared to the public one. um, it may be restricted to public depending on the nature of use case. And yeah, that's how it becomes a combination of both. And federated is one. Again, multiple organizations are involved. The access can be granted based on the needs of it. So let's dive into the different types of features the blockchain has to offer. So yeah, so blockchain offers a lot of features, starting from immutability to enhanced security to decentralized nature to the different types of consensus mechanisms available, the distributed nature of it, and the faster settlement. So let's take one by one. Immutability, right? So the blockchain is immutable, meaning no one can modify it. So this mitigates the risk of manipulation of records, since like whenever it is created, it contains a record of each and every transaction. And like no one can modify it. So again, no one can change even the audit trail of it. And as a result, once the data is validated and entered in a blockchain, it is irreversible. The next part is decentralization. Decentralized, right? We have already discussed about it in length, right? But I will just briefly touch upon it right now. So blockchain is a decentralized network, which means there isn't any centralized authority maintaining it. It gives you power to store information and a copy of it on the various nodes in the network. This makes effective use of the internet to ensure data integrity. The network is fault tolerant, as it does not depend on human authorities. Therefore, there are fewer accidental failures. The decentralized structure of the network makes it extremely expensive and difficult for cyber criminals to actually launch an attack on it. And it gets rid of third party services, which reduces the likelihood of a security breach. Does not offer any scope of corruption, as the technology uses various algorithms to maintain it, because it depends again on the type of the mechanism that is invoked into it. And it promotes transparency within the system, and the users have the visibility to view each and every transactions or a change that has happened. A change, when I say change, whatever the blocks have been added to it. um, the distributed ledger feature, right? So blockchain provides a distributed ledger system. In this type of ledger, the data is shared, replicated, and synchronized across multiple geographies, countries, sites, or institutions. So every user on the network will get a copy of the ledger, and any change on the network are automatically added to the every copy of the ledger. And in case of any system failures, there will always be a copy of the ledger that can be used to retrieve the data. And this itself ensures that there's no single point of failure, because you have other nodes which are running parallelly. So uh, users can't edit their copy of the ledger as they want, because during synchronizing, the system will recognize the falsified ledger, the ledger entry, right, after comparing it to the other ledger copies and nullifying it, because each and every node or the peer have the same ledger. So if one tries to modify it, it will not, because they know, right, they have their own copy of it. So yeah, coming to the another feature, which is enhanced security. Blockchain offers a level of security compared to other centralized platforms. Aside from decentralized, it uses cryptography to encrypt data on the ledger. Cryptography is again a complex encryption process that acts as a firewall against malicious cyber attacks. Like firewall can be treated as a door. The technology can recognize corrupt comments and reject the request on automated systems. As it's decentralized, there is no, as I mentioned, right, there's no single point of entry, and thus your information is more secure. Blockchain is perfectly capable of helping organizations to eliminate any distributed denial of service attack. With the help of proper authentication keys, it can quickly detect any third party attempts to enter the blockchain or the network, and it can again stop it. Every node or a selected nodes, like based again on the type of blockchain, can act as a verifier for the ledger. If a user wants to add any new data to the ledger, it needs to first get approved by the other nodes, and it helps to maintain fair participants. um, yeah, so it eliminated the need for intermediaries, which quicken the response time of the system. And the next is the consensus. So consensus algorithms are one of the main features of blockchain platform. Consensus helps the nodes within the network to make collaborative decisions or come to an agreement. It helps the participants to make faster and a quicker decisions on whether a transaction is valid or not. And yeah, there are like different types of consensus mechanism. The popular ones are proof of work, proof of stake, proof of elapsed time, practical Byzantine fault tolerance, proof of activity, so on and so forth. So there are like number of consensus mechanism or algorithms. And the last feature of blockchain is the faster settlement. So blockchain offers a faster transaction settlement system. Traditional banking systems can take a lot of days, sometimes weeks as well, to process a transaction. But the blockchain settles transactions in few seconds or minutes. Some blockchain platforms can process like a huge amount of volume of transactions every second. And again, so in blockchain, unfortunately, the transaction rate depends heavily on the capacity of the platform and the scalability rate. So that's the reason there have been a lot of blockchains coming in the market, which helps to overcome the issues of scalability and throughput. Yeah, and where there are like too many users on the platform, of course it will slow down the network, resulting in a slower transaction speed. But again, there are blockchains coming up which are trying to solve this problem. So these were the features of blockchain. um, we'll move to the next slide. So let's jump into the DeFi space of it. So blockchain can be used in decentralized finance. When I say decentralized finance, right, it is a overall umbrella for a variety of financial transactions. Uh, Different kinds of financial applications can be built onto the blockchain platform. Um, yes, so the DeFi draws inspiration again from blockchain, the technology behind the digital currency Bitcoin, you know it, right? Which allows several entities to hold a copy of history of transactions, meaning it is not controlled by a single and centralized party. That's important because centralized systems and human gatekeepers, right, can limit the speed and the sophistication of the transactions, while offering users less direct control over their own money. So DeFi is interesting because it's different because it expands the use of blockchain from simple value transfer to a more complex financial use cases. So to understand, if you look at the slide, right, so how is this different from the traditional one? So in terms of infrastructure, right, it doesn't require employees or institutions, but the traditional one, it's dependent on the institutions, the employees. Again, in terms of transparency, it completely offers full transparency. Everything is available and visible to all the participants. But in the traditional one, it is not completely transparent. It is available to a very few people governing it. And there are like a lot of DeFi apps which is offered on the blockchain technologies, specifically for finance. Uh, but again, the traditional one doesn't offer any globalized application. So yeah, in terms of data access, right, we discussed. So there's no access restriction as such. But again, in traditional one, the access are limited to a very few party, and a, a view access is provided to few users based on their need. And in terms of the algorithm type, all these major projects are like open source. Their algorithms are available on GitHubs, which anyone can see. But in the traditional one, it doesn't have any open source programs, so no one can actually look into it to understand how it overall works, or who is taking care of what at what level. So yeah. And now, okay, let's jump to the benefits of decentralized finance. So we have been discussing about it, right, in one or the other way. So the first one is, right, it cannot be tampered. So it offers applications that are immutable, right? Once data gets verified and added, no one can alter these transactions. And it offers full customizations um, to the smart contracts. So every what do you say, DeFi application uses a smart contract. A smart contract is uh, uh, it's an algorithm based on if and then rules. So if this happens, do this. If that happens, do that. So yeah, that's how you can control your uh, the application without any human intervention. The second feature is interoperable design. So most DeFi technology uses Ethereum's standards and protocols. It is like the Ethereum is the top second cryptocurrencies as on today. So due to similar standards, the applications are interoperable because most of them are developed on Ethereum. So it's easy to first of all use within that Ethereum blockchain, but there are different kinds of solutions which helps um, interoperate from one blockchain to another. And developers can introduce new features on top of a old DeFi application model, so which also streamlines interoperability. The next one is the fully transparent network. So right, so it typically uses public blockchain, which is a fully transparent network. Every user takes part in verification, and thus any updates are broadcasted to like each of them. And even the source code is like I would say a public property, and developers are free to use it. So again, even like you can also use the all the open source available source code of any blockchain, and if you have something to improve upon, you can actually make changes to it and come up with a new use case solving any problem that you have identified. So yeah, and the next one is permissionless access. So all decentralized finance technologies have permissionless access. It can offer financial rights to anyone around the world. There are no restrictions based on their locations as well, right? And what do you say, the last use case, or the last feature I would or the benefit I would like to touch upon is the user empowerment. So these applications don't empower organizations as such. It is more towards or geared to the users, and the users have the utmost control over it. And like one needs to at least use once the crypto wallets and maintain their own accounts just to see how it works. So that's how you will get introduced to the decentralized finance. Of course you can trust the centralized exchanges as well, but in case you want to try out, you can use the wallets available, and that's how you will get to know that everything is within your control, and you can transfer to the any of the parties you want to. So yeah, there are a lot of use case which is available, or which are developed on the decentralized finance. The first one is asset management. So, like, it offers solutions for network users to manage their assets. Users can buy, sell, or transfer the digital assets and earn interest as well. It helps users to maintain their sensitive data and the privacy of their own account. And if I talk about complying to the AML and CFT requirements or measurements, so this again offers a lot of such what do you say, use cases. Like when you talk about the know your transactions mechanism, um, is completely different from the know your customers protocol. So this helps and this offers know your transactions mechanism instead of the know your customers. So you can track a transaction from the genesis, or you can track a particular wallet from the beginning itself, from the first transaction. So it focuses on the transaction behavior to enforce AML and CFT measurements rather than a particular entity. So it monitors transactions in real time without disturbing or disrupting the user privacy. And the other one is the decentralized organizations. So so it's also known as sometimes as DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. So it can perform traditional tasks such as the governance, managing assets, fundraising, etc. So these are decentralized in nature and like does not have boundaries. What you see in these centralized organizations, and the decisions in these type of organizations are taken based on the amount of tokens that you hold. So it's just not that there is a CEO or a CFO taking decisions for these kinds of organizations. It's actually uh, in the hands of the party to it, the public who holds the tokens of this organizations. So whenever someone has to take a decision, they can take basis the way public is thinking about it. Like you are free to vote onto it. So similarly, in the uh, recent case, you would have seen a tweet by Elon Musk wherein he mentioned specifically, right, in the vote that he can step down from the CEO of Twitter. So like that was a kind of a decentralized one because he didn't restrict it to the like to his own decisions or to the board, but although it was on Twitter, but it was kind of decentralized. Yeah, so it was again a use case that can actually be built on uh, the 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 blockchain technology as such. So this, of course, was not on the blockchain, but okay, so everyone is not going to vote on a Twitter, right? They're not going to uh, come up with a poll now and then Twitter. But again, if you know that you need to create specific organizations for a specific task, so the parties who are involved into it, um, they can take part basis the tokens what they have, or basis the amount they would have deposited initially. Accordingly, their the voting power can be decided, and accordingly they can vote for any such type of decisions they want to take. So yes, and the another one is analytics and risk management. So it helps to discover and analyze data more easily for the users, because um, it's all available on the blockchain, right? Everything is visible, so you can pull the data and you can analyze it in your own way. You can understand what is the nature of the like the parties to it who are making a transaction, at what time they are doing it, or on what particular they are doing it, right? So everything can be assessed and discovered and analyzed, so that like you don't have to seek request from anyone, because it's all available, right? So users can use this data to make knowledgeable business decisions. It helps to discover a new type of financial opportunity and risk management tactics as well. um, and if I talk about the derivatives and the synthetic assets again, so these uses smart contracts to automate and introduce the creation of token based derivatives. These assets can work like traditional commodities, like the fiat currencies, bonds, stock prices, market indexes, and so on. So there are like applications available which are geared towards the tokenized derivatives. And if I talk about the infrastructure tooling as well, so again, so DeFi offers infrastructure development tools that can connect and interoperate with each other. It like helps facilitate create uh, the tool itself, wherein people can use uh, or can tweak according to your requirements. There are like a lot of such infrastructure tools which just like the people just need to drag and drop, and accordingly they can use. And again, it can also help to interoperate with other blockchains as well. So the developers can utilize these applications to develop their own blockchain infrastructure. And yes, I just don't want to name it, but there are again a lot of applications which are working towards these kind of development. Like in case you need any specific use case around it, you may ask questions and I can answer that. And yes, so it also helps to improve digital identity as well, because it offers improved um, digital identity system that can act as a global identity, can provide attributes such as connection to the financial activities, certifications as well. You would have seen, right, in the past, uh, the education certificates are now built on the blockchain itself. Like you can access those on blockchain based on the permissions, and based on your identity, it will provide whether you are certified on XYZ or not, right? So this helps even like the underprivileged to get access to the financial features from like anywhere, because it is not restricted to say a particular person based on its financial health. uh, if you have even a small amount of money, you can be a part of it. So yeah, again in terms of insurance as well, like It gets rid of the abundance of paperwork, bureaucratic and cumbersome insurance claiming procedures, because everything can be digitalized, right? Uh, you can upload your transactions onto it. You can upload your paper onto it. The different parties a part of it can take decisions. You don't need to uh, like go to each and every party again and again. You have all the what do you say, uh, the mechanism built into it itself, so that each and every party who are responsible for a specific task, they are liable for it. And like, you can see at what level, at what party the transaction is pending, because it's completely visible. So, and like, there can be timelines defined to it, because in the normal insurance process, what we see is there are a lot of what do you say, fraud that happens, right? So it helps to eliminate, or rather reduce to a greater extent, when it is like on a decentralized platform. So again, P2P borrowing and lending is also available on it, right? It creates a new type of borrowing in the lending marketplace. There can be pool created, wherein whosoever has the liquidity can add on to it. They can add their money to it, add their token to it, and whosoever needs it can take a loan basis the cryptos. They can lend, or rather they can lend and then they can borrow it. So if you say, for example, if you if you want liquidity, like say for example you are holding, say, Bitcoin or Ethereum, so you can deposit or you can lend your cryptos, your Bitcoin or Ethereum, and based on the what do you say, the liquidity that is provided by the platform, you may get 60 to 70% of the current value. So if it is say around $20,000, one Bitcoin is say $20,000, and the platform is offering 60% of it, so you can get 60% liquidity of it in any stable coins which they are offering. So yeah, it offers peer-to-peer networks for the overall borrowing and the lending applications. Again, so there are really good use cases which exist today. Uh, uh, like, even there are use cases wherein you can deposit your holdings and you can earn interest onto it. So it's just not that you get liquidity in your like you earn interest on your traditional finance model, wherein you deposit money in an FD, you will earn say 5 6%, 7%. But in the case of cryptos as well, you can deposit, you can earn interest. Again, um, I would have used the word of crypto a lot of time. So like, in no way I'm asking anyone to buy, right? This is not a financial advice at all. So it's just for the sake of explaining, or taking the use case of decentralized finance. I'm using all these words a lot of times. So yeah. Um, Again, in terms of payment solutions as well, it can serve even the underbanked or the unbanked people, right? Because there are a lot of people around the globe who may not have banking facility available, or even if they have, they are some sort of not able to get themselves registered or become a party to it. So as such, it uh, is not dependent on your bank. You can create your wallet and you can use it. and there are a few platforms who requires again the KYCs, but there are again the platforms which doesn't require all that. So again, not specifically talking about the use case of the the platforms which doesn't require you to perform the KYCs and other checks, but it's good to have all that. But again, if like you have not been if you don't have any sort of what do you say, the identity card, or you don't have any banking facilities, right? So in either of the cases, you can use and explore these platforms. So yeah, again, these kind of payments solutions will not require any middleman, and like this will make the whole payments more transparent and simpler. So although it offers, or it has a lot of use cases, right? But it does come with some limitations as well. So it has challenges. Like for example, since all these applications or the use cases are pretty new in the market, right? So sometimes the performance is not that great. Sometimes the liquidity is not good enough. Uh, Sometimes the system may fail because although it says that it is decentralized, but sometimes in some cases the data where it is being stored is on a centralized party. It is not completely decentralized, and sometimes even the computing that happens is again not decentralized. So yeah, sometimes due to the limitations of it, and sometimes not actually utilizing the power of decentralization, uh, there are challenges that people faces. So you need to be completely cognizant of the fact that uh, the the platform or the application that you are using, or that you want to build, right? uh, in what sense you want to build it. So like, should it be completely decentralized or a partly? Accordingly, you'll have to take care of the shortcomings of it. So yeah, so the performance can be poor sometimes. uh, Sometimes the user experience is not that great because it's again not that mature, right? It's coming up in the market day by day. People are getting used to it. So this has a drawback because people are used to using these services of a centralized party, which have been offering them a great user experience, right? But these kinds of applications are to be taken into mind in the sense that people are not used to it. So the user experience has to be in such a manner that it becomes self-explanatory, or it's intuitive to people to like work onto it, and there should not be uh, a lot of steps involved into it. If you want to make a complete transaction, it should be rather a few clicks or a few buttons before the user completes a transaction. And we spoke about the smart contracts as well, right? So these are again algorithms. So whenever a smart contracts is made live or is being used in a live project, it should go through a rigorous what to say, um, a security check. There should be vulnerability assessment and a penetration testing around it for the algorithm, because uh, since most of the or rather, like, I would say all these use cases are publicly available, right? So each and every person in this world can see what's written in the code, and again, so there are hackers, right? So they will try to take control of the transactions. So it becomes really important that you first perform a internal quality check, and once you are completely able to uh, like resolve all the queries or the the bugs that you have identified, then you should again go for a kind of an audit from a third party to ensure that okay, this smart contract is free from all the bugs and it can be used for the public at a large. Because once a smart contract is live, it cannot be changed. There has to be another contract to it. Again, it's a complete different task altogether. So yeah, we have seen the past lot of hacks that have happened because of the bugs uh, that were there in the smart contracts. So Oracle manipulation. So Oracle is something like sort of bridge. It helps to um, move data from one destination to another. So yeah, so when the data is moved, right, so again need to ensure that it is encrypted so that there cannot be any manipulations to it. um, Even data from the outside world can be transferred to the blockchain. So uh, we need to ensure that it is free from all the manipulations or the what do you say, alterations that can be made to it. Again, so this whole overall ecosystem is scattered in the sense that everyone is trying to build on their own. Everyone is building different things. So not like not each and everything is being integrated and can be used as a whole. So yeah, the market is improving. Of course, yes, people are trying to bring what do you say, integrations between different things, or trying to make a single product itself which offers a lot of features. So yeah, again, as I mentioned earlier, there's a low scalability. um, it cannot scale to a larger extent. So this problem is currently being solved by, or being trying to solve by different blockchains that are coming up in the market. And this overall market, as you already know, that it's quite volatile, so nothing major to talk about this. So yeah, that's what I just wanted to talk about. I just want to take a use case of decentralized finance, and I just thought, okay, I will take 15 minutes for the question and answer. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. That was quite an interesting take on the topic. Since we have 15 minutes left, I think we will move on to the questions. Okay. So the very first question is: will it replace existing ERP systems? Question mark. Cost and usability wise, will it be user friendly for small business owners and traders?
Yeah. So again, it is not going to replace the traditional ERPs like SAP, Oracle, or maybe smaller ERPs like Tele. Uh, Again, as I mentioned, as I was talking about oracles, right? Okay, I will just first of all stop sharing my screen. Yeah, so as I was talking about oracles, right? So the data can be pulled in from ERPs to different blockchain applications. So again, they both are here to stay, and again depend on the use case as well, which a user wants to solve. But again, as I mentioned, uh, it's not necessarily that both will operate separately. The data from existing ERPs can also be pulled into the blockchain. And sorry, what was the second question in continuation to it?
Cost and usability wise, will it be user friendly for small business owners and traders?
Yes. So again, it depends. Um, so currently, there are few players in the market who is trying to provide a decentralized service from different sort of the existing storage player. Okay, so if I talk about the storage, so currently, like all of the players stores data on say AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, right? So there are um, like a players in the market who are providing decentralized storage facility, um, which again, so for example, if you say have say 800 GB of data available on your say hard disk, will you be able to utilize it? So you won't be able to utilize it, right? But if we talk about this decentralized storage, you can utilize, you can give it to others your existing unutilized storage capacity for others to use, and you can make money out of it. And so just to answer whether it's going to be costly for the small traders, initially yes, but as the use case gets evolved, there are a lot of parties to it. The per person cost might be effective in the longer run.
Okay. The next question is how decentralization maintains in public blockchain.
Mhm. Yeah. So see, as I mentioned, right, it all depends on the consensus mechanism. So decentralized is what? So there is no single party to it, right? So no one is in complete control of everything. So there are, if I talk about normally the public use cases, you can trade with a particular party even when you don't know him, because the way things work on a blockchain is that okay, no centralized party is in control of it. When you deposit something, when you want to trade with one thing to another, it happens based on the smart contract or the algorithm that is defined into it. So yes, it is of course can be done on a public blockchain.
Right. Moving on to the next question, we have will immutability help the auditors in elimination of any validation of the transactions with third party, for example, validating balances with banks, vendors, etc.?
Yes. So based on the different kinds of blockchain, uh, there are the scanners available. Scanners, when I mean to say, is that if you say put the transaction hash of that particular transaction, it will pull all the records, and each and every record is available for the public at large. So uh, like who did, between what all parties it was made, at what time, what was the amount, so everything is available. And yes, of course, you can automate it, you can completely eliminate your reconciliation job. And if you have to compare it to something, it can be done. If you want to say understand, say okay, you may be performing say debtors reconciliation or your vendors reconciliation, right? So if same data is available to all the players, right? So first of all, in itself, it eliminates the need of reconciliation, because in the traditional world, what we see now is that I have my own record, I make an entry, right, which is not visible to the other party. Another party creates its own record, its own transaction, it is not visible to me, right? But in the case of blockchain, where the same record is being uh, created and used by everyone in the system, right? So it eliminates the need of reconciliation, because everyone has the same copy of the ledger. And again, if the auditor wants to see it, it is first of all visible, right? But it can itself generate a lot of report which will just need to be reviewed by someone. So it may not completely eliminate the need of auditors, but again, the auditors can reduce their efforts and can just perform a review instead of like cross checking with other parties.
Okay. And moving on to the next question, is type of blockchain having some same characteristics as type of cloud?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question fully. Is this the only question?
Yes, yes, this is the question. Is type of blockchain having same characteristics as type of cloud?
Okay, so see, I already spoke about the types of blockchain, right? So, but the cloud is completely different. So the different types of cloud computing could be infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, which is completely different. But yeah, so the cloud computing is different, and the but there are like clouds. Okay, so I understood this question now. So okay, so the cloud can be the public cloud, private cloud. So that is in terms of the storage where you store your data. So blockchain is much beyond that. So it can be understood in the sense that um, cloud just provides the storage kind of a facility, right? But blockchain can be uh, like, so cloud can be just part of a blockchain in the sense where the data is getting stored or getting computed, but uh, blockchain is much beyond that. So yeah. So if I have to, okay, again, deep dive into it, I would say that, okay, so cloud computing is like an on demand availability of computer system resources, um, specifically or especially the data storage and the computing power, without direct active management by the user. So the cloud provider in this case manages on behalf of the user. Um, so it talks about the system resources which are to be utilized, but again, how it is to be governed or taken care of, or the way you need to build everything is yeah, completely different.
Okay. So the next question is a bit long. So it starts like this: blockchain slash DLT will include recording, validation, and updation of accounting and payment transaction of all transacting parties, that is vendor, customers, employees, bankers, and all other stakeholders, as understood on distributed basis. The question is whether it will include other commercial activities like trending activities and PO creation in system.
Yes, you can do that as well.
Okay. So for accounting profession, how blockchain is important?
Yeah, so now, for example, I know Yukti ma'am will take a session on this on the risk and compliance, which will cover much more in depth. But as I mentioned, uh, accountants with like a tech savvy can perform an audit of the smart contracts. They can actually understand the overall business logic with which the smart contract will be developed, so that uh, the tone is set, and it is in what do you say, agreement with the auditors, right? And say if you have to understand the way compliances happen on the centralized party, right? So you would have seen at the time of this Ukraine war and all, right? So the transactions from a particular country was prohibited, and how do you ensure that the the transactions were actually prohibited by a particular party? So there have been cases wherein the IP addresses are being tracked, right? So when we understand this overall technology in the sense it is being used, we can help perform compliances check as well. We can help uh, uncover crypto frauds as well. So we need to understand the way overall this technology works. Um, so you need to deep dive into it. Yes, and again, uh, there are chartered accountants who are providing advisory services in terms of which blockchain technology to use, how to scale, and because again in this space as well there are a lot of players available in the market. So which is better than other? So if you have to advise your customers on which particular blockchain technology to build their product, right? So they should know all those things in much more depth and detail before they can advise their client. Yeah, because I just don't want to deep dive into it. We are running now a short of time, or rather on time, because Yukti ma'am is going to take this session and I don't want to take hijack their session.
That is fine, sir. It was quite a session, I must say, and you have very well taken over all the doubts. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Uh, and with this, I welcome Yukti Arora ji, who has joined us, and will be moving forward with this session with ma'am. CA Yukti Arora ji is CA, CISA, DISA with 21 plus years of risk technology consulting experience, both in industry and consulting. She is founder, CEO of Omnia Consulting Services. She has worked as director in Big Four risk advisory function. She had led and delivered several large engagements in risk compliance. She also has delivered several lectures for ICI, ISACA, and IIA Delhi chapter. So I'd request Yukti ma'am to please take away this session from here, and over to you, ma'am. You are on mute.
Thanks for introduction, and I'll go into I'll share the screen. Just give me a minute. I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am. The screen is visible.
Thank you so much. So, like Ankit I know Ankit since like my Deloitte days, and we've worked together. So I know he will have like done a good job like of explaining the basic concepts and fundamentals and also the applications. Some part of it, and I will just continue from there where he actually had done some part of it. So quickly touching on the fundamentals, the stack. some very important features of blockchain from a security perspective, and some aspects of myths and controls, etc. So that is what I'm primarily going to cover in this discussion. So as you all know, like blockchain, Ankit would have already discussed, there are certain really good features which are available for blockchain, which makes it actually the internet of value, because you can actually trust a system, you can actually trust the data, you can feel that like now like this is something which is reliable. Why? Because first of all, it is real time, there are no intermediaries, so there's no chances of it being changed. Then there is like a completely distributed ledger, so it's not controlled with any individual or any other person. And then it is important feature, it's the transactions are irreversible, so once it is done, the logs are generated, and all those controls which are essential as an auditor, like which we look for, those are getting generated, and you have those like thing that you can't do backdating or something like that. And there are restraints which are there. There are multiple purpose. I think Ankit would have discussed it in detail. It could be used for record keeping, wherein you just keep a record and which becomes a source of truth. Or it could be for transfer of value. You execute contracts, you execute transactions, you sell and purchase using this technology, and you know what you are buying is authentic, you know what you are selling is correct. There is no piracy or those types of things. So it helps in bringing value of transfer in the transfer. Then there are certain contracts also. It can be used, digital contracts, smart contracts, which can be executed on its own. And that's the key purposes for which people are exploring, using, and putting the blockchain in perspective. There are three primarily types of blockchain. One is public, second is permission, and third is private. So public is totally decentralized, and permission has some amount of control. So it's called quasi-decentralized. And there are certain rules which the participant do agree, and there are certain protocols which are being governed and managed. And in private, it is more or more centralized, more like used for a company within. It has certain very good features of the blockchain, as well as it brings the trust in the entire thing. Only like the downside of it is that it's governed. The primarily purpose of blockchain was that it is ungoverned. So the governance aspect of it becomes a thing, and where there are chances of it data being changed, or information being changed, or some amount of biases being brought into it, or some rules being changed, or protocol being adjusted as per the business requirements. So that's a downside. Otherwise, it brings all the values of the blockchain. So if you look at the technology stack of any blockchain, at the application layer, we have various like languages, mostly Solidity or Java, in which it is programmed, the user interface and logics, etc. Service layer, there are a lot of features, specifically multi-signature oracles to pull the for the execution of smart contract, the trackers, which gives the information for wallet management, the wallet system, smart contracts, and like identity and various types of storages. On the network and protocol, it could be permissionless, wherein you don't require any permission, or it could be permission. And there are various types of protocols like proof of work, proof of stake, primarily depending on the use case, depending on the need of the business, people define which one of them to be taken. If they are looking for more scalability, they may choose someone. If they are looking for better response, they may choose someone. Depending on the requirement, the company choose which protocols they want to go for. And at the end, like it has to be a strong compute infrastructure has to be there. So compute, storage, and virtualization, these are very, very key aspects. So this is a technology stack. So blockchain is not a product on like an application. It is a product which has all these layers, and together only it becomes a solution. So therefore, we often call it as a blockchain solution, or a blockchain product rather than being a application, because it has all these layers which together make it a successful and good thing. So advantages, so there are various advantages of a good blockchain. So blockchain, first of all, the biggest advantage of blockchain is it's distributed. It is tamper-proof because you can't change. There are consensus, and the ledgers are distributed and shared. All these things helps in bringing control, specifically on the cybersecurity side of it. Why I say cybersecurity? If you look at the NIST framework or any good framework, it talks about, first of all, being planning and governing and being strategic. Second is being secure by having preventive and controls. Third, about being vigilant by having detective as well as being aware. And the last being the resilient part of it. All these like aspects are very much provided by the technology solution brought by the blockchain. Because why I say strategic, because it is like people, it's very much transparent. Like people are aware. There's a very good governance mechanism which happens, and it becomes a single source of truth. There is a trust which is there. There's an integrity which brings. There is a single source of information which is like available at a real time basis. Secondly, why I say secure, because they are all connected systems and distributed system. Nobody is having a complete leg of it. And also at the same time, each one is validating and verifying and build, and through a consensus, they are always checking. So the integrity of the data is there. The because it is tamper proof, so the value which is there of the information is actually preserved. So therefore, and also like the access and all is properly distributed among various people as per the requirement. So therefore, it is tamper proof. It is disintermediation. Nobody has a complete the access. Nobody has a complete control, and because of that, it brings that thing. And being vigilant because of this only, because everybody is looking at it. Every person is looking at it at some point or another, and they are making others also aware of it, and they're not letting a wrong element to come inside it. So therefore, it helps the companies to become vigilant, and it helps in disintermediation. It becomes very good tool to become resilient, because every part of it is recorded. You can't break it easily. If there are certain things, then there are audit evidences also, auditability also there. So it enables the company to implement a good cybersecurity thing. And the critical advantages of it is like all nodes can view. Confidentiality is maintained because the people have only through, if they have an access or if they have the key, only the authorized people can participate on it. Integrity is high because the transactions are validated. There's a history, there's a log. Transparency is high because there is a consensus. And immutability, which is very significant, is that all the data is available and nobody can make any changes or modify or destroy it. So that's a single very important advantage. Now, because of it, it will help companies to actually transform the cybersecurity in doing various types of things. But this is actually a myth, right? Because there was a study which was done by MIT, and what was found actually was that there are lot of losses which are happening because of the cyber attacks which are happening on the blockchain technologies. In fact, there have been evolution, and most of the blockchain systems have been compromised in some way or another. And the impact of it is more deadlier because, first of all, it is very difficult for the way it spreads. It's very difficult to control. And then you can't remove the things. The incident management becomes extremely difficult, and with the speed it fell. And if the identity is lost, it can bring a very damaging effect to the thing. The participants cannot participate, and even the consensus cannot be built. So therefore, the MIT study also brought these things. And also because of that study, all the things which were because of immutability data cannot be changed, it was actually questioned because you can bring a fork and you can bring a soft fork and you can actually make the changes in the data and the integrity can be lost. Anonymity again, it can be disclosed because although people are there, like they are anonymous, but there is a pseudo anonymity because when they register, when they give there's some amount of information, the metadata is there which gives some amount of information. So therefore, those types of things are there. Also, transparency. Transparency is not also 100%. Why it is not 100%? Because because of some like although hash function is there, but because of the data, like one start looking at the pattern, etc., they can understand what it is. Further, as in blockchain, one of the very important aspect is that you can't like remove the data, you can't change the data, you can't delete the data easily, and that is not very good for privacy because privacy regulation calls for right to be forgotten, right to be actually asking for getting the data changed or edited or removed. So those types of things are very difficult to implement in if you are implementing a blockchain solution. So that is one of the very very big challenge which this system has, and it has been hacked, and almost all of them, and therefore it cannot be said that it is a hack-proof type of system. So if that is the case, then what should the company do? What should be the controls? How the companies can make it secure? What are the risks and controls, and how it can be addressed? Because all these things are getting questioned, and how exactly can this thing all be addressed? So most important, like let us talk at each layer of the blockchain. At every layer of the blockchain, the companies need to go into the details and put the controls, whether it is at the user interface layer, application layer, where you have user interface logic, integrations, and the way you do coding. Every aspect of it, you need to have a very, very secure mechanisms of doing it. Just as any product development, in this case also, the codes are subject to various types of vulnerabilities. So companies should adopt a secure coding procedures because they should be aware that if they are using this thing, there are chances of it also being hacked. And therefore, the standards of secure coding equally apply to when we are developing on the blockchain technology. Application logic and security controls are also very important aspect to be looked at, because if the logic is not very well defined, if the information or the vulnerabilities with respect to the flaws in the logics are not addressed, then the systems will not be able to work as intended, because sometimes what happens is contracts are executed based on it. So you should have the mechanism to address the exceptions in the contract. The logic for bringing the oracle, which is executing the contract, that needs to be extremely well defined, because system is taking decisions and putting the thing. A very, very well-defined testing process, both at the layer of application as well as infrastructure layer is required. Application level penetration testing is something which can help companies to address these things. And like any other system, it also requires a equally strong malware protection processes, not only processes, the tools and technologies which are built over here, which are required. Then also what is important is to consider the integration, because generally blockchain solutions will talk to many other applications, because they will fetch the input from one and then exchange the input to another. So there need to be a very well defined mechanisms where of how we are integrating with various other like things. Specifically, what data is coming, how we are configuring the flow of information or flow of data which is coming, what type of baselines which we are putting with respect to basic like edit and validation checks, various types of completeness checks, verifications of the various information, the log monitoring aspect. All those things need to be thought of. And like any other solution, these solutions also need to be regularly patched for the new rising threats. Because see, what happens is with the evolution of quantum computing and all those things which are going to come in a very near future, I think even the basics of encryption, etc., need to be changed. So, key management ways of managing those things need to be changed. So, putting the regular patches based on the various types of threats is another area but one can think of. Data privacy, as I mentioned, since the companies should, if they are storing some data, which is a personally identifiable information or something which is very sensitive. In that case, the users may at any point of time ask you to delete the data or to share the data or to remove the data or to edit the data. So this thing in blockchain would be very difficult. So typically the best way to deal with this is to segregate this data and put it in a different place altogether, put it in a separate application, let it flow from that to this like thing. But and also like when it is flowing, it is just like putting for purpose of smart contract execution or for Oracle, but nothing is getting stored, because if the user requires the data to be deleted, it can be removed. So that is a consideration which one should specifically make while we are developing a blockchain solution. Encryption, again, the good standard of encryption should be used, because the whole success of blockchain is on the strong encryption. And if this is not strong, then definitely the blockchain solution will not stand its purpose. So, and with the quantum computing, regular efforts should be made to upgrade this thing. Then various types of policies, procedures around management of blockchain, understanding of vulnerabilities coming from phishing, malwares, and also people trying to get into the like trying to use the people who are working as a node or doing the validation or giving the consensus. There may be phishing attacks on them. There could be impersonification of them. There could be identity theft of them as well. So one need to be aware of it and take adequate procedures and policies should be there to deal with these types of risks. At the service layer, which is primarily looking at the signatures, trackers, Oracle wallets, various types of logs, management, etc., which enables the application to run. Fundamental is to ensure the security of public and private key. There should be a mechanism for leveraging this type of thing. A very, very strong cryptographic key management should be used. And typically, like one of the best practices to use RFC 4107 or IETF. And another important aspect is to have a clear, complete inventory of Oracle. Keep on reviewing it on regular basis. Keep on making sure that the access to it is limited. Keep on making sure the validation checks which are put are proper. Also, we need to look at the aspects of smart contract. Smart contract is, although they are not legally binding, there is no regulations which are legally binding the smart contract, and that is the biggest challenge with the smart contract. But one important aspect of smart contract is if it gets executed, line by line, what the contract say needs to be incorporated in the technology. And also there should be a way to deal with it, because there could be exception, there could be change, there could be variation, there could be limitations to the contracts. All these things need to be thought of and implemented while we are doing. The ideal way to do is to only go for those one which are pretty much standard and one has very good experience and of dealing with it. Those types of contracts only should go for a blockchain implementation. Then wallet management. Although a lot of controls are put on the layers of blockchain technology itself, but if wallet is lost, everything is lost. Like there's no way you can recover it. So very, very strong mechanism of protecting the wallet, taking a backup of wallet, making sure that things are recoverable, and also data protection needs to be there. There has to be an end-to-end encryption, which is required. and the cryptographic standards of quantum needs to be there. Sometimes it makes sense to do a simulation test so that, like, because what happens is in blockchain, if an incident happens, if it will replicate and it will actually go and make it little more like difficult for people to actually to respond to it, because the transactions would have already gone and you can't remove it, and the information and incident or the loss is already there. And to curtail it, to like, see, the best solution in case of incident is to shut the system, but here it is a decentralized system. What system you will shut? You can't take that type of action. So one has to have extremely good management response mechanism specifically for this, and which should be extremely fast, and it should be self-correcting. It should be intelligent, like a way of dealing with it. So those types of solutions are required at the service layer for a blockchain technology to be really successful. And on the network and the protocol layers, very important is to have first of all, a very well-defined baseline, and understanding what we are going to do, whether we are going for permission blockchain, whether we are going to permissionless blockchain. Depending on the use case, only the decision needs to be taken. If you are going for a permissionless blockchain and you're wanting to restrict on the network, it won't work. So depending on the type of it is, you have to decide on the control mechanism which can be implemented on the network security side of it. If it is totally a public like blockchain, you can't have much of a controls with respect to the aspects of how we are going to access and how we are going to do, what type of mechanism we will have on the consensus, whether what percentage of it could be where we will complete the transaction. But so these aspects need to be very carefully thought of before, at the time of selection of the use case, and then these controls come into picture. And depending on the type of blockchain you are selected, there will be a control which would be required. Nonetheless, there should be at least some governing. There should be at least some governance. We should lay down the policies and standards for the entire participants to participate. Otherwise, there would be a chances of various types of attacks and the confidence of the entire technology going low. Specifically, very, very important in case of this blockchain technology, because considering the impact it can have, is to have a very intelligent threat management, cyber threat management and risk management protocol, wherein you have those mechanisms to identify, to resolve, to communicate at all the node level if there is a new risk which is there, so that people take a decision and they do not give a consensus. Patching needs to be regularly done. What is also important is that if we find any node which is behaving unusually, or we find any place where there are trends which are not usual, then a root cause analysis and a communication of it should be done. Whatever mechanisms of consensus we are using, whether it is a proof of work or a proof of stake, where proof of work is where we are confirming and based on the solution or the problem which has been solved. Proof of stake is where other person is showing that they have a stake and committing to it, and they are proving that they are part of it. So in or the Byzantine fault tolerant, where the users are there is one leader node which is trying to first confirm for the others and making sure that every aspect of it is protected. Any of them we use, any of these protocols which we use, all of them, it is very important that we do a risk assessment. We understand where there could be a chances, because every if you are looking for scalability, then probably the Byzantine fault tolerant is not a good thing. If you are looking at a compute, then proof of work may not be a very good solution. If you are wanting to ensure that there is enough trust and confidence and people are able to validate and they are wanting, so in that case, proof of stake may not be a very, very good solution sometime, because it can be like compromise. So depending on the requirements, the company should choose which protocol they are going to work on, which type of layers they would like to work on, and whether they would go for a private blockchain network or they will go for a public blockchain network. And then they should also look at the mechanisms to prevent like DDoS attack, because these are one of the most important one which we have experienced, and they can actually make the blockchain or corrupt the blockchain and bring the forks which are there and break this thing. Then for consensus mechanism, since it is spread, it is decentralized, and companies which are working on it, or the organizations or the users who are working on it, they may be spread across geography. They may be having different business customs and environment. So having a mechanism for compliance and regulation is another very, very important consideration. Considering the increasing needs of, first of all, making sure that data is secured on the privacy side of it, then on the side of various types of geopolitical threats which are increasing. All those things require a close consideration to the regulatory aspects of it also. Because if we are building something which is not compliant, the solutions may not meet the business requirement and may not be viable in a long run. So that is another important aspect when we are doing this thing, specifically on the consensus. If we are wanting to have a trust, and if the entire consensus is with limited set of people, or is with limited with a particular monopolistic group, then in that case, that blockchain solution may not be a very well accepted solution across the geography. So one has to think about these things and ensure that there is a proper mechanisms in which the consensus is meeting the regulatory aspects. On the infrastructure side of it, again, there are lot of challenges, specifically in with respect to asset inventory. Since there would be lot you are using lot of application features, then services, the network, and all. So having a complete inventory, managing that inventory, ensuring that aspects of inventory management is a key to the success of it. Many times, to put a security first, the starting point is to know the inventory, to know what my assets are, what is to be protected, how it is to be protected, what type of features we are using. And in case we do not have that thing, specifically these are applicable in case of private blockchain, or a blockchain which is where it's quasi public, where we have certain controls. In those cases, maintaining that is a key to the success of this thing. Then configurations, configuring the consensus, configuring the various types of mechanisms of security, those are important. Data privacy. If we are sharing if you are managing the wallets, if you are sharing the keys, if we are managing the digital, the key management part of it, security of those digital signatures, security of those the key management process is one of the very, very fundamental aspects. So there should be very well defined policies and standards around it. Extremely well defined mechanisms of how to deal in case somebody loses the key. Well-defined mechanisms of how to deal in case somebody loses a wallet, how to deal in a situation where there has been a fork which has been created, how to deal with a situation where there has been certain mechanisms where certain amount of data privacy requirements have come and we have to deal with it. So those types of things need to be well defined. And also it is important that to understand that there could be lot of malwares which will be coming up specifically on these types of things. So one has to have that mechanism wherein the blockchain is protected from malware, and anti-malware solutions and systems should be built over it so that it can be brought into correct perspective. All those controls around incident management, whether it is a root cause analysis, trend analysis, recovering from the incident, having sure that we have a plan to deal with it, to communicate with the people if something goes wrong. All those needs to be very well defined, because if we are dealing with a system which is based on trust, system which is based on consensus, system which is based on protocols which are providing a comfort that it is immutable, these incidents can actually make or break the product itself. So having a very good incident response mechanism is a key thing. Some of the risk which has not been at all addressed, which have still to be addressed, and blockchain solution actually is not yet providing solution clearly to it, is identity and access management, specifically when somebody loses its key. Specifically when somebody gets an access to somebody else's key, how to get that person out, how to identify and block that type of thing, how to make sure that those accesses are as per that, how to ensure that the protocols are protected from these types of identity and access based solution. Somebody get wrong, a person getting into it, how to prevent that person from getting into the entire blockchain solution. Then the privacy. Privacy is another very, very critical aspect which is not yet addressed by a blockchain, because the regulation talks about various aspects of securing, but also about the rights of a customer to be forgotten, also for right of a customer to get the data deleted, right of the customer to get the complete information removed, and also the right for them to view their only information. Here the things are very transparently shared. Here the information cannot be deleted. Here the information cannot be the logs and all. You can't remove those types of things. So that's a fundamental structure of blockchain. So privacy is totally not, the regulations are totally not what this blockchain solutions actually is providing. The growth of quantum computing, again, this is very, very fundamental and a very highest area, because the entire success is about key management. And with quantum computing growing at the pace, these keys could be broken in fraction of time. So this is another important risk which is to be considered and which needs to be dealt with, and it is not yet addressed. Then how to deal with the loss of private key. If somebody loses it, then definitely they lose what all is there in the blockchain of this. Then consensus fraud. People, specifically in the private blockchain, where certain group forms, they get together and they form, because they are part, they have that majority to do the consensus. They bring the frauds, and then you can't take action out of it, right? Because they are giving the consensus and the activities happening. These blockchain solutions, because it's decentralized, lot of all the nodes can connect. So there is a very, very high level of DDoS attacks, which is prevalent on this. Then the social engineering attack, wherein people are trying to get the information about the keys and trying to get into the solution. Smart contract, again, because they are not at all enforceable. If there is any variation, if there is any limitation, if there is certain exception, if these contracts are not well defined, and automatically, since they execute by bringing, so those types of challenges, and the transactions are done, you can't go back also. Even the law judgment which are executed, which are given, you can't take an action on what it has. So this is another very, very important security or a control consideration which is not yet addressed by the blockchain. Then Oracle security. the security of the transactions, which validates the thing and bring the smart contract to execute. Again, they can be subject to various types of risk, and they could be subject to various types of errors and frauds. And generally, these are not that secure, and these are not also part of sometimes consensus. So these also bring a lot of threat to the cyber security. Then there is totally lack of regulatory mechanism wherein people are accepting blockchain as a solution. They are like some countries accept it, some countries do not accept it. There are one judgment and then there's a different judgment. And there are a lot, because of increasing cyber attacks, various types of misuse of this technology. Regulations are very unsettled at this point of time. There is no acceptance to the smart contract. There is very low acceptance to the various types of mechanisms through which the transactions or the consensus are done. And because of that reason, and no case laws or etc., which have been actually settled at this point of time. So the regulatory mechanism for this is very weak. And that's a very big deterrent for any technology to grow and go. Then the biggest challenge also is on the scalability side of it, because there is always consensus. There are these protocols which are built on consensus. So, and when all of them are accessing and every part of it is being dealt with every person participating on it, so scalability sometimes becomes a very, very big issue, specifically where, and also like the compute which is required. The size of data will keep on growing, because in blockchain, every data will be stored, every log will be stored. So over a period of time, the size of data is going to be increasing and increasing and increasing. So how much it is scalable is another issue which this blockchain technology is yet to address, and which we should consider while we are dealing with this type of thing. So some of the important control considerations which I would suggest, which each one of us should consider, is on the strategy. Like this is a fundamental thing. One has to be thinking aloud that why we are going for this type of solution. See, that there should be a clear purpose. There should be a clear objective. There should be a clear reason for selection of a particular technology, just not because it is a fashion or it is a good thing. That should not be the reason. One has to have, like for instance, if you are solving a group problem, or if you are requiring a lot of people to come and bring that consensus, or if there is a trust issue which you want to solve, probably this could be the solution. But one has to have a very, very clear objective why we are doing it. And it should be very, very well reviewed from a return on investment and the risk which it poses. Because it is not, as I mentioned, it is not one a product. It is not one thing. It is a complete stack in itself, wherein you have to have all those things. And also you need to consider the scalability type of scalability value which is coming out of it. So return on investment is another important aspect, which as a control consideration, when we evaluate, when we do an audit of this blockchain technology, the starting point of us should be to understand the objective and the return on investment. Another very, very important aspect, which we definitely need to consider, which we definitely need to review and understand, is the what is the scope, whether we are going for a full thing, or whether we are doing for a particular purpose and for particular area or for particular problem only, whether it's a narrow one or whether we want to go for a complete broader capabilities or not. That is another consideration which company should make, and the auditor should review while they are reviewing this thing. Then what are the capabilities? Because it will require lot of capabilities of various types of people and various types of skill set, various types of tools and technology. So what are the capabilities which will be required? That is another aspect which one needs to review and consider. Then another important aspect which one needs to really address is the complexity, how complex it is to implement this, how difficult it is to implement it, whether we have done a proof of concept or not. What was the result of proof of concept? Because implementing without a proof of concept may not bring that value. So that should be a key area to be considered while we are selecting it. Then also having a mechanism where we are very clearly defining that what measures we will metrics we will measure, doing a proper market research, product design, ensuring that for those product design, these are the key metrics which we are going to track and measure. Now, bringing the biggest challenge is that you will have to bring a lot of things together, lot of people to participate in it, lot of sources to come together on it. So having those clear metrics, bringing those things to proper platform is one of the biggest challenge which one should consider as a part of strategy for implementation of blockchain as a solution. Also, one need to look at the aspects of people, because which people, whether we want a permissionless or whether we want a permission, who are going to be the key stakeholders, who are going to be the leading things, who are the consensus decision maker, what will be the governing bodies, what types of strengths and things would be there, whether we will be requiring a cross functional team or not. These consideration and these controls need to be defined and built out in doing this thing. Then a very important aspect is understanding the variety of skill set one will need to develop, variety of coding skills, like variety of ways in which because you will have to put in various solutions together. Then how will you incentivize, retain those people, what will be the structure? All these needs to be considered while you are implementing or the blockchain solution. On a governance aspects, extremely important is to understand how we are going to prioritize on things which are who is going to govern this thing, what type of protocols we are going to choose, what types of mechanisms of consensus we are going to use, whether we are going to have somebody leading it, whether we are going to have somebody or we are going to have a decentralized. What will be the mechanism if we face certain regulatory issues, or if there are certain regulatory issues, how we are going to deal with it? What types of regulations apply to it? So governance around those regulations, consideration about those regulations, listing all that can impact, doing a risk assessment around those, providing a clear mechanisms of dealing and managing those risks, consulting various types of stakeholders, laying down the guiding principles around it. These are fundamental controls which needs to be implemented while we are doing a blockchain solution. Also, we need to very much consider how we are going to report, how we are going to communicate, how we are going to speak in case some incident happens, in case we want to change a particular decision, if we want to remove certain information which is required to be removed as per the compliance requirement, if the contracts, smart contracts need to be implemented or variation, how to deal with those types of situations, how to strengthen the controls around the various types of security, cyber security aspects. All those things need to be considered while being at the governance. What type of reporting needs to be there? How much awareness and oversight of the top management is required? And fundamentally, who is going to own it? Because if there is no ownership, if that is not very well defined, specifically in the private blockchain, it will really fall down. So how the oversight and control will happen, that is a very important aspect to be dealt. And if we are also bringing a blockchain for a particular industry or for a particular sets of users or for a particular community or for a particular thing, even if it is a decentralized like public blockchain, then also some amount of oversight so as to bring some discipline, may be required specifically to prevent any major like impacts on the societal aspect. So that is another important aspect which one needs to be considering while implementing or defining or designing a blockchain. Then one need to also very much be considerate on the data side of it, because data being the key like element, how you are going to migrate, like if you're wanting to implement, first of all you will have to migrate certain basic amount of data to it be how you are going to do that, how the data source and data platforms will be put into the blockchain platforms, what types of processes are the right candidates for it, how you're going to transform the data, how you are going to ensure that the data which was already available, that is being the consensus is there for that as well. How we are going to manage the quality of the data, like for instance if there are some bad agents, or the consensus like has been compromised, how we are going to deal with the quality of the data in that case. What about the issues which are going to come with respect to compliance, how we are going to make sure that, and who's going to share the issues relating to the compliance, who are going to be the single point of contact to deal with these types of situations. So these all consideration one needs to definitely address and make while we are doing a blockchain implementation. Definitely, it requires a lot of very careful consideration. It requires a sincere effort, first of all, to design the system, to define the system, to lay down the data transformation also as a journey, to lay down and define how the validations are going to happen, to define what types of, how the consensus on the data is going to be there, to define what types of protocols would be most suited for the data which is getting processed in the entire like thing. So that needs to be extremely well thought of and defined when we are going for blockchain as a solution. Then, as a technology, what tools we need to use, what types of, whether we will be working on having a distributed things which are totally outside, what types of innovations and thought process we will be requiring to deliver and implement. So those are some of the very fundamental aspects which one needs to consider, which one needs to be there. So if I want to just talk about some of the controls which the company should have in each of these domains, whether it is strategy, people, governance, process, data, technology, the fundamental control is to first of all have a policy and procedures around it. Second, the control which the company should any blockchains like solution or any blockchain consensus or any blockchain provider or any blockchain like protocol mechanism should have is a very well defined rules and for which are configured in the application itself, which are configured or designed in the process itself to prevent any bad actors to come in. There should be a clearly awareness and information sharing which should be happening with all the people who are joining in, specifically on the risk and also on the ways to deal with it. Wallet management. Fundamentally, people should be like, they should be told how to manage the wallet. They should be told how to manage the keys of which they are getting and dealing with it, how to secure it, what types of mechanism they could do. They should be informed that how they can ensure that they are taking backups of their wallets and making sure that it is secure. How to, and then because if the keys are lost or if the wallets are lost, then it's no way one can recover those things. So providing them that risk and providing them that information and making sure and providing them that guidance, that is fundamental control which every organization, which every blockchain solution should target to provide. Another very, very important aspect, which one has to be very importantly concerned about, is the selection, like why we are selecting that particular solution to be done through a blockchain technology. What is the return on investment? That type of control and the mechanisms to deal with the privacy, the regulatory aspects, to deal with the ever-changing requirements of the thing, to deal with the geopolitical threats which are there, to deal with the mechanisms which are wherein there could be some bad actors which are coming into the thing. So there should be a clear awareness and training on all these aspects which should be there, and a very well defined policies to define with respect to the same. On the people side of it, where fundamental control which is required is to have a clear stakeholders. There should be a very well defined stakeholders who should be there, who should be defining and laying down the rules and regulations of various types of people, a clear measure of how they are going to do, and also retention of the people who are the skill sets, who are building those protocols, who are building those solutions, who are building those smart contracts, who are building those things. And one of the important skill set to have is also on the cyber security side of it, also on the privacy side of it, also on the side of the of development of the new threats which are coming on because of quantum computing, the various types of mechanisms of protocols which the challenges of scalability, etc., how those skill sets of the data scientists, etc., who can solve those type of challenges, that is important aspect to be considered. On the governance side of it, the very fundamental is to have a clear reporting mechanisms for various types of reports of usage, who logged in. See, every data will be logged, every information would be logged, every information is shared with everything. But putting it in a perspective, putting it in a proper workflow, putting it in a proper dashboard so that the communication happens in the right manner, so that the decisions can be taken in the right manner, is a very important consideration, important control to be considered while we are doing this. And also, like, because if it is a private blockchain and if it is a consensus which is in the hand of few people, how independent they are, how transparent they are, how much is the way in which they are taught on basic ethics, etc. That is another aspect of governance, code of conduct and ethics of the consensus of the people is also very important control to be considered while we are implementing this blockchain solution. Also, from a governance, a very good risk management program needs to be implemented, wherein the risk not only from the side of the technology, but the risk from the side of the participants, from the information, from the data, from the processes, from the various types of new requirements of the laws which are coming. All those are put into perspective, and the risks are evaluated for the financial impact, for regulatory impact, for the impact on the reputation on the operation side. And based on that, like the impact and the likelihood, the corrective and preventive actions are defined, the controls are defined, and those are measured and also monitored on regular basis. So putting that risk management framework is also a very important thing, specifically from a perspective of consensus on the private blockchain, specifically on the selections of the protocols. Another very important aspects of the governance is to keep on looking at the scalability. See, the data will keep on increasing. The data governance, the data warehouse management is very, very important aspect. Building that. So when we are designing a blockchain solution, it should be brought on the concept of data lakes. wherein you are building those things and from there you are building those type solutions. So having a good understanding of data management process, of data monitoring process is also extremely important while we are building a solution on the blockchain technology. Permissions versus permissionless decisions around it. That is another important consideration which companies should make while deciding or implementing this thing. As an auditor, we may think of auditing on the blockchain, wherein the data itself is validated and thing. But still, there would be a lot of decisions, there would be a lot of judgments which would be required. Now, building that as a smart contract won't be a good idea. Building that as a validation rule won't be a good idea, because if it is done, then transaction is there. You can't go back. Yeah, it's immutable. So those types of aspects needs to be clearly kept out of it, and also there should be a possibility for bringing those types of aspects in the blockchain if the solution is like that. Once the auditors have audited and the results are there, sometime what may happen is that the companies may have to go and make certain changes in the data because of certain reason, because of new regulations, because of new ways of putting the things together, because of new requirements which are coming out from the business requirement perspective. In that case, having that mechanism to deal with it, having that mechanism to control the data source, to control the data platform is another important control which needs to be considered while we are implementing this blockchain as a solution, as a technology, as a web thing. Then many a times another important control which needs to be considered while building a blockchain is on the encryption, on the key management aspects. Key management and encryption are the fundamental aspects of, as far as technology is concerned, on which the blockchain is developed. This key, how strong they are, can they be compromised or not? How important it is to keep them secure till they are properly distributed, how well they are managed and put it in right hands till the time they get distributed, how much how we are doing this consensus of proof of stake, wherein we are trying to validate something somebody already has, right? So how, what type of mechanism, what types of ways are we validating, what types of rules we have written to validate those types of proof of stake is another very important control. One needs to test, one need to review, one need to cover while we are doing an audit of blockchain. Mechanisms in which the consensus is compromised because the people coming together taking a wrong decision is on the technologies, misutilizing the technology is another important control consideration which one needs to know while we are implementing a blockchain solution. So these are some of the important aspects which one needs to cover. And I am now we can take up questions and answers now. And any questions anyone has?
Yeah, let me check for the questions. Because I think all the questions have been dealt with by sir in the previous session. And there are no new questions popping out as of now. So I suppose that will be it for the session, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. If there is any question, I thought we'll take question and answer because it's a very technical topic. And I thought there would be a lot of questions which would be there.
Let me check if I missed something that. So there is one question. Latest development in blockchain to curb the cyber thefts in data analysis. If you can brief on that.
Yeah. So definitely, as I mentioned, that there are a lot of cyber attacks which this blockchain technology is getting exposed to, and they like analytics plays a very important role in identification. But as I mentioned earlier in my slide also, that since the way it flows, it goes really like, because if an incident not recorded, transactions keeps on happening, and then the logs and all keep on adding and all. So and to curtail it, to take it out, to remove it by building a fork is also a very not a very easy task to actually do, and you can't shut off the system also, because it's not controlled by one person. So the only way to deal with this is to first of all keep on monitoring it on a regular. So there should be like a SOC or a NOC like thing, wherein every data is being analyzed, every point or entry is being captured, the dashboards are getting generated, and any anomalies, any events, they are captured at the bud itself, and they are captured at those types of like thing. So solutions which are around the SIMs, solutions which are around the mechanisms of event logging, the APIs logging and monitoring, those types of solutions which are built over it, and a dashboard being generated out of it. It could be through the any use of analytics tool like or it could be as a part of the solution of SIM or event management itself.
Okay, so um, one more question. One needs to undertake a SWOT along with risk tracking and mitigation before blockchain implementation. So it's not kind of a question. Basically, they are sharing their views.
So that is absolutely correct. Like, see, as I mentioned in my previous slide, when we are doing a blockchain implementation, strategy needs to be very clear. Why we are doing, what are the strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat of the solution? What is the key benefit? What are the key KPIs which I'm going to be achieving based on this type of like implementation? So they are fundamental, and based on that, like the risks which are being identified, specifically on the weakness side of it or the threat side of it, that needs to be very well defined and documented. And a clear plan needs to be there based on the impact and the likelihood, and monitoring and review of it needs to be very well implemented. Specifically, the governance aspects of risk management, they are the key to the success of blockchain solution. If that is lost, like because it's a trust, building a trust solution. If that is lost, now the whole like blockchain value will be lost. So that's fundamental to any of these blockchain implementation.
Okay, ma'am. I think sir also spoke on this, but the question has again come for further clarification. So my question is, in one infrastructure aspect of blockchain technology, it is dependent on cloud of the data storage needs. What would happen with the data if cloud security is compromised? Will blockchain technology would prove to be a failure, or data would still be encrypted, secured? Question.
This is a very good question, actually, which has like see, the thing is that we assume cloud, being on cloud, we are secured, but there are a lot of threats, and specifically when there is a data compromise which is on the cloud's thing. In that case, I think very important, extremely important is first of all to do a very good cloud due diligence. Due diligence of cloud while selection and is important, specifically from a data point of view, because if my data, even if it is encrypted, even if it is like kept in a secured manner, even if it is like not subject to, it's a decentralized system. It's if the system is compromised, And if the keys are compromised, definitely the data can also be compromised. So the success or of the data security or thing is on the success. If the key management is proper, if the key information is secure, then definitely we can say data is secure. But if the key itself is lost, or if the security, or if they, because of the quantum computing, there are possibility that even the encryptions can be broken, right? So in that case, definitely the data won't be secure.
Okay, so another question from the same person on similar topic: whether data in blockchain would ever be deleted? If not, how such a vast data bracket storage will be organized? Is blockchain technology cost efficient to use?
See, we have to decide it. That's why I was making a lot of emphasis on governance and designing strategy part of it. See, you have to design the solution in a way where you are keeping the information and data, which is really going to be like in a very, very structured manner, in a very, very compressed manner, in a manner where you are not adding to the capacity and the thing, the storage, the scalability at this point of time is a real like biggest hindrance to this blockchain solution. They are like, as we see, the progress is happening, and with quantum computing the solution to it is definitely going to come with the new ways of storage of data. The solution, we have reduced the like size, and fundamentally we are in the right track. But at this point of time, there are no right answers to it, and definitely considering the current scenario, scalability is one of the aspects which we really need to be thinking of. But yes, in the long run, I think there would be a solution, specifically with the growth of quantum computing and 5G also being there.
Okay. The next question is, if blockchain serves as a medium of data storage, data security, transactions, etc., how to go about doing these transactions with platforms to approach for the same?
Sorry, if you can repeat, I didn't get the question very clearly.
So if blockchain serves as a medium of data storage, data security, transactions, etc., how to go about doing these transactions with platforms to approach for the same?
So, as I understand, like the question is around the data, how to go about the platform which are doing the data storage or data. I think that is a question.
Actually,
Not-
the person has asked around like 3 questions, so I'll just ask them all if we can make a base out of it.
Yeah.
So is it necessary for 2 parties to come together to do a transaction under blockchain technology? Will both the parties be required to have already implemented blockchain technology in their organizations? And the third question is blockchain an alternative to the banking and money transactions only, or is it a complete business solution, something like ERP solutions?
Yeah, so it could be a complete business solution, not an like a ERP solution, but a business solution to wherein the data is being exchanged, you are building a trust, you are consensus is there, you are coming into agreement on the integrity, validity, accuracy, and various other aspects. So it's a solution in itself wherein the transactions are getting validated as and when they are happening. It is totally decentralized, so people will be able to, like, if they are participating on the same platform on the same node, so definitely they can share the data, they can exchange the data, they can validate and enter into a consensus. As I mentioned, the consensus protocol being key. So if it is a public blockchain, then definitely all the people participating validate, and there is either proof of concept or proof of stake or a proof of work, based on which the consensus is achieved. If not, like if it's a private, then the rules are defined by the private consensus. So in that case, the consensus can always be compromised. Like you can have some ways wherein certain people have more powers and the consensus can be compromise, and it may not be a very well transparent consensus, which is happening in the case of public blockchain.
Okay, ma'am. So the next question is how to proceed to implement BCT. Who are the service providers?
Sorry, I didn't understand what is exactly required for BCT, like service provider and all, because there are multiple of them, and I'm not sure about like any specific one.
Okay. So what aspects are to be considered while formulating audit program of blockchain technology based transactions?
So one needs to be, as I mentioned, one needs to look at the controls around governance on the various types of protocols, on the various types of consensus, on the application layers, on the network layer, on the infrastructure layer, on the service layer. And one also needs to take into consideration the training and awareness, the risk management aspects, and the people aspects of it. So controls which are comprehensive to cover all these aspects. So specifically on the governance, one need to see how the assessment has happened, who are going to control it, what types of consensus mechanism would be used, what types of protocols are going to be used, what types of mechanisms we will have to ensure that various types of people who are taking a decisions are authentic and correct, how the consensus will not be compromised, what types of rules and controls we will have for the key management, what types of encryption mechanisms we will be using, how will we ensure that the risk management and new risks which are coming are considered, the risk regulatory aspects, having a regulatory framework, identification of the regulatory requirements, putting the controls to comply with the regulatory requirement, a very transparent reporting mechanism, very transparent workflow mechanism, very transparent various types of workspaces where you are saying what transactions happen, what time, what value, a clear dashboards with respect to it, wallet management, awareness and training related controls, skill management related. These are the controls which we typically will put in the audit program for a blockchain.
Okay, so ending with the last question, someone is asking, can you please give live examples of a blockchain technology?
So one of the very important way in which blockchain can really solve a problem is the aspects of ratings. Because see, what happens is when we are doing where we are giving a view on a particular rating, etc. Sometimes there are biases which can come in the entire process. Sometimes those ratings can also be changed based on certain inputs, etc. But when it's a it's a public blockchain, and people are participating and they are transparently giving a rating to a particular solution or to a particular product or to a particular company. In that case, what may happen is against a fixed parameters, against a well-laid like thing, everybody is seeing what is happening. Everybody is getting a view of what like the ratings are. There is a trust which is built in the entire mechanism. From an audit perspective, the reconciliation aspects can be totally solved by when we put the things on the blockchain. For instance, a vendor like seeing when the invoices have been delivered to the customer, like as soon as an invoice, like the goods have been received and invoices being received, like at that gate level, immediately like a transaction being completed and the payment being received. That could be, and there's no need for reconciliation because at one end the person has delivered and the other end the person has validated and received. So there's no need for reconciliation, which would be required in this case, and both of them are together completing the transactions at one go as a part of like the same leg. So that could be one of the very good like ways in which blockchain can transform the industry.
Right, ma'am. Since we have 10 minutes left, one more question. Is complete financial accounting possible on BCT and preparations in financial statements thereafter audit accordingly?
So a complete thing is not possible, as I mentioned earlier also, because there will have to be some information you have to keep confidential. Some information, there are decisions which have to be taken internally. Some information you have to keep a particular thing within the scope of the organization itself. But yes, the vendor management system, the customer relationship management system, the various ways in which you are reconciling, bringing the solutions into consideration, all those aspects, all those things, definitely they can be brought into the thing. So wherever the interfaces occur within the ERP, all those aspects definitely can be, the ancillary systems can be brought into the blockchain, from which the data inputs can go to the key ERP system. And in financial accounting, there are a lot of places where we have to apply professional skepticism and judgment, and various types of decisions have to be taken. I think in that case, it purely cannot be totally done in the blockchain technology itself. We will have to have those types of things, because in blockchain, if the transaction is done, it cannot be changed, right? And there are mechanisms where they can be questioned, they could be views which would be different, and there would be requirement to recast accounts or books or in certain cases. So 100% it cannot be. That's my personal view.
Okay, ma'am, that will be it for the questions. It was a wonderful experience sharing this platform with both you speakers and the amenities that were present here. So, with this, we have come to the end of today's session on blockchain technology. And I, CA Sampoon Sharma, would like to extend my greatest thanks to CA Dr. Debashish Mitra ji, President, ICAI, CA Aniket Sunil Talati ji, Vice President, ICAI, Mr. H.M. Hinayak Bandara ji, President, SAFA, CA Nihar and Jambu Saria ji, Vice President, SAFA, CA Charanjot Singh Nanda ji, Chairman, Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, CA Dayanivas Sharma ji, Vice Chairman, Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, and our eminent speakers, CA Ankit Mehta ji and CA Yukti Arora ji, for their efforts and time to come to this session and providing us with the knowledge light and sharing it with everyone on this topic. These ideas and elegance of explanations, I need to extend my greatest, deepest sense of appreciation. I also extend my dearest thanks to all the members who have been a part of this enormous session that we had today. And last but not the least, I would like to extend my greatest thanks to the staff that has made this session possible. And with this, I would like to close this session, and we will keep on organizing sessions like this every week. So you are requested to please stay in touch and updated for the same. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.